they can be brought out of their bipolar disorder and become powerful instead of drugged out of it. And that's like helping them burn off the demons, because it is a connection to spirit realm, which means there's demons in there and there's God in there, but they're both there often. And if you can help them understand what's there instead of telling them it's all delusion, there's nothing to fish through. That's a big problem with our mental health issue, and that's where we have to. I don't like secular psychology and secular stuff like this. It has to be body, mind, spirit, all is one. Good day. I'm Patrick David Bonin.
I'm Daryl MacAskill.
I guess we're going to start out with a little Bible passage.
Okie doke. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be excited and glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. And it goes on.
Is there more?
So that's Matthew 5, starting at verse 3 till about 13.
What's your thoughts on that?
I like how it's there's a lot going around about law right now. People, when they're literally making laws, don't do this, don't do that. And if you see someone do this, then tell on them. And nowhere in there does it say, telling on people. That's not virtuous. Like, we used to get in trouble for telling on people, and sometimes you get punished more if you were a tattletale, right? That used to be a bad thing. And and this just says you will be comforted if you're mourning. So if you're sad and down, just keep going. And if you're pure in heart, you shall see God. And a lot of people, it's like working. We know in the practical world, first you work, then you get paid. We know that. But this is the same way. First you believe in God. First you have faith. First you seek and you shall find. Ask and you shall receive. Knock and the door shall be open for you. First you do these things. Then when God is ready, God will show you the truth. And a lot of people, they say, oh yeah, prove it to me first. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. It's like saying, give me my paycheck first and I'll work later. Trust me. No, trust me. I will work. Just give me the paycheck now. And it's like, I don't know. It's like, it's the whole thing about demanding God, telling God who God is, and telling others who they are. And it's like, no, I define myself when I talk. God will define God's self, and I do the work, and God's saying exactly what I need to do, and then I do it first, and then I'll find out who God is. And those who aren't doing that, they literally won't find God. Maybe until it's too late, and then they'll realize, and it will happen. So that's what it all says to me.
Yeah, the whole point of really being awakened to God and starting to work for him and trying to speak his truth is you have to believe for a while until he starts doing magic. And then I think that comes from like you said, doing these things. Like when you start to actually be, you're gifted and you become chosen for your actions, just like any business person. If they're not going to just be like, come up to any hippie that says he's got an idea and invest in him, he's going to invest in this person that's already built the idea. Like they've already done it. They've proven concept, right? So it's like, that's how God, he invests in those that have proven concept. And so when you go in and you prove yourself to be that higher virtue, then he's going to choose to work with you, right? And he's trying to work with everyone, to be honest. And in another philosophical sense, everything he's done in my life is either the lack of me listening to what he's trying to tell me, and you have to be the lion and fight the father to finally understand the relationship you have with him. And I think that once you start having that relationship and you living it in every single day, that's when you realize you have burdens. Like it's like you get this wisdom gets bestowed upon you. However, with that wisdom comes all this responsibility. Because now you have to deal with the eyes that now you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Then you will only become resentful at yourself if you don't go and try to change those things that you're seeing that the world doesn't see and are hearing that the world doesn't hear. So that's why it's a war when you're truly spiritual. Because if you get those eyes to see, ears to hear, and you decide to go hide out in the hills and leave it all to fall, I don't think that's the virtuous spirit, and there's a lot of people that believe there's like lots of ascended masters, like other beliefs, and like I believe in the Christian idea of Christ, but there's other beliefs about there's many ascended masters, and they talk about this in other religions. And yes, there's lots of people that became very powerful and spiritual and did their own battles in their own way, but Christ was the ultimate. He was the one that was at the place to do the battle that has rippled through time for thousands of years. And so this is what we have to understand, is in our own way, we can be the archetype of that Christ. In our own little story, we'll never even be likely, even in this world, we're likely not going to get any of the love that we deserve in our lifetime. But that's the thing about loving the Lord and trying to speak that truth, is you're not speaking for outcome. You're speaking for, if you are, you're speaking for the outcome of generations ahead of time, not for your own selfish outcome, and that's how we need to speak.
Yeah, and you said he just knocked it over as soon as I said that. My water bottle. My dog is sitting here on my lap. I don't know if you guys can see, but he's snoring. Yeah, so that, and also just saying that Yeshua is alive now here. Here he is alive now. That's the whole thing about him being crucified and raising again from the dead. And that we will be raised, all of us get raised out. That's why it's a new birth and born again. And so all those, the truth, and they're just words to describe what actually is. And it's a born again. It's born in spirit and not being a person of the earth. And a lot of time, there's a lot of influence right now. We're getting under a lot of pressure to respond, to actually react to the world. Reacting to the world, and we're being goaded into, like literally goaded into reacting and coerced into things, and under the ideas that if you don't, then they'll put shame in you, and so that you feel guilt and fear that you won't have enough money to pay your bills, or that you won't have food, and guilt and shame. But it's all in a reaction to the world. And when you live within spirit, it's that you respond to God, and then it gives you the patience and the virtue, and none of this is easy. And then that's why it says in there, it says merciful. When you're merciful to others, when you show mercy, then God will show you mercy and others will show you mercy. So you get literally the same judgment you give. So you don't have to be merciful. and then others won't be merciful to you, and God won't be merciful to you. And if you're, this merciful, then you'll get that much mercy. And if you're, and as far as you can reach, and just like, how merciful can I possibly be? And you will be protected through the spiritual realm, through angels, through from Yeshua. And it all comes down to Yeshua. I always break every prayer, every thought, every intention down to just him. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't have friends. I believe, why would he be alone? He had infinite friends, angels, all kinds, like a whole army or a whole group, a whole fun thing. And to just put that focal point, because otherwise you can be, I've found that you'd be deluded by, beings will come around and try and tell you, and it, a lot of times it's just Lucifer, and he's pretending to be whatever, pretending to be the deceased whatever, and coming to you. And so that's why I just focus right on Yeshua. And that's the reason that one narrow path to focus on him is for my own safety, for my own sanity, for my own protection. And then he can introduce me. That's why I always do that as a prayer to him. He can introduce me to his friends. Okay, Yeshua, I focus on you. If there is any friends, or if there is, then through you, show me. I look at your face, and then I'll see your friends. And if that's God's will. And that's the other thing to say, is if it is God's will. Not saying, I want this, I need this. And it's like, if it's God's will, I need this. If it's God's will. Because his ways are so much bigger than ours, we don't really understand. We don't really know.
I think that, like you said, when they have us preoccupied with fear and they have us chasing around to try to figure out some kind of future in the chaos that's ahead of us, they're missing that patience, that where the spirit is sitting. In patience you find your spirit. And that's the Lord speaking to you. In those spots, you start to see the ripples and the waves of, instead of being thrown about by them, you become able to just react to them. And so, and that's, it's terrible. Like, what could we, here's a question, like, because it takes a lot, like, you have to trust. It takes, like, you really have to. The whole point is when we trust in the Mother Earth to provide, or to me, that's the maternal and the material, then we can get, in times like this, when we're fed all these perceptions on where we're going, all we're going to do is be living in fear and not being able to understand, hold on, where my salvation is knowing that God provided for every bird and every snake, everything out there. Why wouldn't he provide for me? And you have to have that faith. And it's like, on the darkest things, if you're living that truth and you're living for him, and it seems like it's darker, it's like, when is the blessing going to come? It's always the darkest before the dawn. And it's like, that's part of the test of God, is to know what, if somebody is righteous, is to hold them get them so close to the flames that they're like burning, and then they know that they're going to be saved. And it's like, a lot of people won't even go near the fire. They're a kilometer away from the fire because they're running around, and they're living in another person's destiny. They're living in the Babylon destiny, living in the destiny of whatever company they work for, instead of the destiny that God has set out for them. And that it's like, how can we, what are some things that helped you, like, break this, for me, is out of the matrix, like breaking out of those fear cycle, the connection to just the physical, and being able to trust in the spirit? Like, what were some of the things that could helped you do that?
The process. I mean, so I started the process of more good, less bad. And I would just write things that I knew were bad, that I knew I needed to give up, that were unquestionable. I knew it was making me feel guilty and shameful and whatever else. And the good would be things I know are good. So I started that process, and I just write it out. And then when I was confused and filled with trauma, then I would report to that. When I felt good, I would create the list. So when I'm feeling really good, I create the list, hang it on my wall. When I'm feeling overwhelmed or something, I report to it. I do the good. I make sure I don't do the bad. And then through that process, another thing that came up was recognizing things that were for surely true. And I'd play this little game. It's like, and you just go from my perception too, right? And you go, so you say, from my perception, this is true. I can see it's true. I know it's true. I've grown up with it. The grass is green. Okay, I can see that. The sky is blue. Okay, I can see the sky is blue. Those clouds are white. Okay.
First principles.
just first seeing what truth is.
Yeah.
And then it was like, that person doesn't like me. I was like, well, I don't know that. It creates all this speculation and all. Well, I think because they acted like this, so then I think that. And it's just, okay, lost. Don't get lost in that maze. The grass is green. The sky is blue. I am going to be pleasant for that person, regardless how they act. That's true. Like, that's my goal. That's my focus. That's what I want. Okay, so to be pleasant with that, for me, I had to stop having so much caffeine. I had to give up coffee, and I had to make sure I wasn't. Well, we're different people, right? Different places, different people.
I'm not saying it's the best for me either. It's like, I probably shouldn't drink as much as I do. No care.
I don't know. For me today, that's an example. So I wanted to have some matcha. And I already told you this. Before I came here, I wanted to have some matcha. I got some awesome smoothie mix with all this organic kale, and it's all dried, and it's all this stuff. And I already had a great smoothie, and I wanted to add it, and it was just, I get messages in my hands, and it's just like, no. And it was like, don't do it. And I'm like, oh, but I want. But then it was really easy for me to be like, okay. And I checked in with myself, and I went, I actually have a lot of energy. So why do I want it? It's like, I already have energy. I'm like, okay. So the point with that is that to stay calm so I can speak, and that if anyone else gets, say, riled up and it makes accusations against me, then I'm able to be calm and peaceful. And it says right here, because go back to the quote, it goes, blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be excited and glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so the persecuted they the prophets which were before you.
Amen.
It's funny written. There's other versions of the Bible which are more in modern day language. That's, I think, the
King James.
It's a King James version, so that's like a 200-year-old version, Old English. But there is other ones that are more direct in what it's saying. Yeah. But essentially what it's saying is you get prosecuted against, and sometimes it's easier to make you look wrong and you look bad. And if I can make you aggravated, and then I can go, then I don't need to change and be like, he's a jerk, and and then call that person a name, and then they make them all aggravated, and they go, see, look. And then if when I get aggravated, I call people names, or I try and attack in any way, then they'll just be like, see, I don't need to change. Look at how bad he is. I told you he was bad. So by being calm and peaceful, and for me, caffeine helped that. And to know that these things, the sky is blue, caffeine makes me aggravated. I need to be calm. Chamomile tea instead. Epsom salt bath. Lots of hot springs. Calm myself. Meditation. Deep breathing. Mornings with God. Then, no matter what comes up, you can just be patient. And that if there is any truth in that, and with the patience and calmness and quietness, and you can even respond, wow, tell me more. Wayne Dyer says that when someone says something that would aggravate him, he'd say, wow, I never thought of it that way. Tell me more. And that's it. And if someone is really just trying to goat you and trying to persecute you and trying to break up lies, chances are they'll be so aggravated and so angry, the fact that you're compassionately loving and listening to them, that they'll actually run away. And then I just do even a prayer in my head, or sometimes out loud, and I just say, I pray for them. I send them love. And different times when I was really angry, I literally yelled and I said, I love you. What are you going to say? All I did was listen. I said, wow, I never thought of it that way. And I said, I love you. And meanwhile, inside, my internal sometimes was like, oof. Because they're calling me names and saying, all the pain I feel is because of you. They don't say that, but essentially that's what they're saying. I have this problem and all the pain. You need to do what I say. or else you're the problem. If you don't do exactly what I say, call me what I want to be called, tell me that I am what I want to say, or else. And now what they're doing is they're trying to get laws and stuff, like government laws and stuff, that if you don't do what I say, when I say, how I say, then I'm going to get you. And it's like, then the truth is something more like what I realize is if there was a bully in my past, you don't expect the bully to treat you in any way because they're trying to bully you. So if someone actually is persecuting you, they're actually bullying you, they're actually a threat to you, then you don't reason with, you have to stand firm. You don't like say, hey, please bully, can you please call me Daryl? I don't like when you call me other names. The bully's gonna be like, oh my god, I'm gonna call you dummy head now. I don't know. I don't want to get into name calling. I really don't even want to go there. But they'll call you these other things that you don't want. Dummy head, I think actually is what they'll call you.
Well, I think it's awesome when you can see people act. I mean, just like, I guess what the question was that is like, we have to get control of our perception first of all, and then realize how everything that we put in there starts to be this little concoction of stuff that feeds this story, these that we feed into the future that are never going to happen. And then your whole emotional state is run on a false reality. And so like, once we start to notice that and see what inputs do to us, then we can see what are the fruits of the software, because the hardware is this mind, and when you clear it of all of that stuff, or when you realize what it is, then when you have the eyes to see and you be able to discern differences, then you can go into it. Yes. and dive into the darkness and be like, what are these guys trying to say to us? Mm-hmm. And then you can read between the lines and see what they're trying to brainwash into the Babylon, instead of being taken by the Babylon. And so to me, all the things, what's the biggest thing that tells me what the fruits is? Does it divide us? And because to be honest, right now there's all this stuff going out that there's a ton of people that are openly just bad-mouthing Christianity, and they think it's a virtue because they've been fed this story about the Bible being the means or the thing that they used for genocides and wars and such, and that's what these evil churches did. They became governments and nothing. That's the satanic side of something that has nothing to do with Christianity or the Christians that are on the ground.
What the Bible says.
And it's not what the Bible says at all. And this is why now I find myself taking on these people, because they're all through my community, because it's through the left-wing side of things. We're a very left-wing community. And that left-wing stuff comes with that divisive stuff, instead of us realizing that and in Christianity I can see people putting themselves on their ivory towers also, and not being able, not like, because we have to know we all grow up together and we're separating the wheat from the tares, right? And so we're all we have to mix to actually find out if we're the tares or not.
Yeah, because if you intermingle, and
do we even know if we're just in a group that says, oh, you're Christian, so you must not be the tare? Right. So like when you go
echo chamber,
create, so any situations you can do that to us. But what is the fruits? Like if you have any of these things that are like, that's usually between gender or sexual orientation or religion or your politics, and even a simple idea of why it's ridiculous watching politicians talk like children, because that's not how you have conversations.
No,
like the Bible teaches of the logos and dialogos, which is dual logos, and that's trying to come to the truth together, not name calling and telling each other why it's ridiculous. And liberalism is just progressivism. It's the maternal. It's fixated on different things, but it's compassion. But the conservatism is the paternal, and it's going to be the one that is looking back further and out in the future. And that's why traditions are more important to conservatism. But they're both saying something important. The fact that we can't even have a conversation about these things, and it's down to us being divided at the genders, right down inside ourselves. We can't even get along. Like a masculine person can't get along with a feminine person because they haven't been taught what a true masculine person is. Mm-hmm. And so because we can't have these debates here on the ground, it fractals up to our our politics. If we want to come together, we have to solve this in our own hearts and like have conversations like this down here on the ground. There's a lot of people who want to save the world right now. They're like, I'm going to go run and this and that. Well, I'd say if those people don't have the eyes to see or the ears to hear, I don't trust any saviors that come up right now trying to save us, any of them, because they're all there under the fault. If they had the eyes to see and ears to hear, they would know we're not at the time of the righteous rule. And that's coming. And the people that will be put in those places by God themselves and by the communities, by the people that will stand and speak a truth that crumbles the Babylon. Those people, and they'll be asked to run. They won't be like, hey, will you guys support me?
Yeah,
and get all these pictures, and it's narcissism. All these people, false saviors. Right. And that's like these people that have never found, they're living with their God, which is their ego, which is Satan.
And they want money. All of them have
That's
one
right.
thing in common.
That's right.
If any of them step forward right now, what would be surprising or interesting? And the thing is, we need money. We need money to pay our bills. So it'd be interesting if someone wasn't trying to get enough money to have a Lamborghini and be like, whoa, who's that guy? Like, or someone who wasn't, I don't know, trying to build an ivory palace or something like that. Then that would be really interesting under the disguise that they're trying to save everyone. And then when you look at their own bank account and you see, okay, are you giving to the poor? Are you like, what do you do with your downtime? Do you spend it trying to figure out how to help people? And we can only do that by having an in-depth look. And you said the fruits of someone's labor, having an in-depth look at who someone is and who they actually are. And a lot of these things, everyone that spends their time pointing at others, and especially if they've spent that time pointing at who's wrong, that guy's wrong, those people are wrong, they shouldn't do that, and getting specific, like that guy right there, he's wrong and this is why and everything. So that's why you should vote for me, because that guy's horrible. Like, what? And it's like, no, just spend the time maybe having mercy on that person, forgiving that person, praying for them, being like, what does that person need? But you really don't direct all your attention at some person over there. You direct your point, who am I? What am I doing? What are my virtues? Or what do I need to work on? Not even what is virtue? Studying it and then aligning with it, being the walking, moving patience. Okay, how do I? And for me, having a step back from caffeine is just an example of just a little bit more patience, even now, showing in real time and just being it, and letting the reality unfold, letting the words come out, and letting and when we start voting for people like that, and we'll see if the system in the future will even be a voting system like this. But when we start investing into people like that and noticing what they are doing correct and encourage people in their correctness. Wow.
I could add one thing though, and just to like clarify just the like other truth to this is that if somebody has a pedestal and they're speaking they're missing the mark, they're sinning in their speech, then in those situations you're not attacking the person. You may be the only person that it does speak and say what you're doing, what you're saying right there is missing the mark because of this.
So it's the behavior you're saying.
It's not that we're like, I want to get, it's everybody's fault and that's why you should go for me. And no, I have the competence. That's why you should go for me. And first of all, I don't think that there's people that should be, and they've been asked to get involved with politics that don't want to. And those are the people that they know why they don't want to, because they know it's a fucking game full of ridiculousness. Snakes. And like I said, it's not the time of the righteous rule. Yeah. And when people see some fairness happening, when the awakened see them be reflecting in their community again, right? Because right now the meek are not reflected in their communities. We're worried about being witch hunted at this point. So how do you think we're at the time of righteous rule? Because we're not. So like that's to me also as I think about all the people that are running everything right now. It's like Bob Marley's song is like they're sailing on their ego trip. blast off on their spaceships.
Yeah, they can leave.
A million miles from reality. No care for you, no care for me. Yet they rule this place. What the hell's up with this?
Wow.
You know, so
I haven't even heard that song.
but this is like, you know, we need people on the ground to get together in groups of righteous people that know how to get into logocentric conversations, higher truth, not there trying to prove their point and be egoists. Those are elders circles, and we need to build those because, to be honest, we are going into a time of tribalism. So we're going to have benevolent tribes, and they should be built upon on the ground elder circles that the people love and respect because of their truth, and that's when we know, and that'll happen when we can see enough of the world reflecting that righteousness, and then we'll know it's time. But in the meantime, we're training to be that. And that's what this is about. We're trying anything that we're speaking. We want people to comment down below if we're missing something, right? Or if there's something that we need to explain better so you can understand why this is the whole point of us coming to that higher truth and speaking so truthfully out, not for outcome, but for that higher truth is what is us proving ourselves to be worthy of that circle. And we're going into that time. And so this is why the only people we should be trusting are the ones that stand the scrutiny of hours of truth speaking. So you can go through and try to, you know what I mean? There's all these politicians. They won't come and have like an hour conversation with Jordan Peterson because he'll expose them.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to look at the respect of the people that will come out and speak and tell them who they are, what their opinions, everything about them.
What time they wake up in the morning, where do they live? What kind of a house do they live in? How much money do they like to spend on this? What kind of food do they eat? Like, just people who will just be like, look, this is who I am. And some people will not. They'll spend so much time pointing and deflecting and pointing over there. And really what makes us sovereign beings in truth is the reflection of ourself and being. And yeah, and then it's interesting because there is a time we do all right now need food, water, shelter. We do need abundance. We do need money. We do need to create that. And there is a time when people are acting unlawful and like unrighteous and evil, essentially. That's what it is. And the behavior needs to stop, and because they're hurting people. So how do you do that and in a way that is righteous yourself? Because a lot of the people out there in the world say, hey, if I was running the world, it'd be so much better. It's like, no, that's actually not true. Everyone thinks that they would do better than the current way that it is. And it's so absurd because everyone says that. Everyone says, oh, if I was ruled the world, it would be better. But if you have any skeletons in your closet, then all you would do is create the world so that your type of people that you think you are would benefit. And that would be endlessly. So unless you actually are virtuous, which means you're patient, you're loving, you're kind, you're honest, you're trustworthy, truthful, filled with truth, speaking truth, you're loyal to those you love, loyal to the truth, loyal to God. Unless you're doing all this, and God is mercy, God is grace, God is love, God is that truth. And we are not able to do that. We're only able to strive for that. And in moments, we can do that. I can do that in a moment. And then you do another moment, and then you can have a bunch of moments where you're doing that, and eventually God is the judge, and then we'll know. And when we do that process, and then we just speak the words, and if God calls us to speak in any different direction, then we do it, and we know that we will. When we talk this way, we will be persecuted for it, because it's very uncomfortable for anyone who's trying to hide, if they're trying to hide behind their money and they're trying to hide behind their idea of power, and it's a false power. If they're trying to hide behind that, they'll be exposed. They will expose themselves, and it's just the way it is. And they'll be aggravated for that, I'm sure. And we can't all just rest and sleep like cute dogs.
We kind of have spoiled dogs around. That's you know, I was thinking about that as when we know that our world is coming, because right now everyone's so divided that you know, Jordan Peterson is like an evil, like antichrist to some people.
To the ones that don't listen to him.
That's exactly.
They don't actually hear what he's saying. They've heard an idea of him.
That's right, but that's what I'm saying is, and there's so many of these people that don't listen to the virtuous people right now. If you've made it this far in, I assume you're going to be on the path to be persecuted as we have been, and all I say is, every day you come home and you meditate on your words, you're going to realize that the God is going to praise you for these things. And like, I'd say just stand and realize the hardest times, like, because it is it's lonely, because you become like, you become that truth. And when you're shining that light around everywhere, it's going to, most will run. And if you become powerful enough and their envy stews enough, you'll be the Antichrist in their lives.
Yeah.
And so like, that's why I think about there's some things that Jordan Peterson said and does in his energies, and that I could say, you know, I would have done differently. We shouldn't idolize anybody. You know, he's a human. However, he is one of the people I can put on the list that led me eventually to Christ, and led me to that truth in my heart, that in the truth in myself, because the world was telling me, because I was like this. I was always very masculine, always speaking and trying to find truth and trying to learn to speak. And because everyone's telling me, you find a filter, and they didn't like what I had to say all the time. And first of all, no, you shouldn't filter. You should speak for truth. It should come out. It's when you start filtering, that's speaking for outcome. Yeah. And I'd rather the truth that comes out can be edited after the fact. And the truth that comes out that's where you find the healing. And that's why we need to speak right from the cosmos. And that fact that I was pushed so hard, and then I realized that's what Jordan Peterson does. He speaks from the cosmos. And I was like, wow, I have that in me too. I just need to get better at it. Like, and then I saw that's what the divine masculine is. Like, and that's what Jordan Peterson is a divine masculine character to me. You know, he has a lot of he's human like anybody else, but that's what he's pointing at, is what a good man is, you know. And I just feel that in these times that a woman will hear Jordan Peterson, like he even says, like it's like 85% of his people that watch him on YouTube are men. And on my channel, I've seen it everywhere from 85 to 100%, because it shows me a month at a time. And that's likely what's going to happen when our genders don't come together. When we're going to have all of us that in a sense, we're going into our echo chambers. You know, men are just like, I could find a more feminine way of speaking that would make me more palatable. And then maybe that would help. And that's what I'm searching for, is that higher ability to make the masculine more palatable to the feminine. But it's also like an acceptance that there is dark traits of the feminine it's really easy to know what the dark traits of the masculine are. And we've pointed those out over and over again, and we've like beat it out of men. But have we pointed out the demons in the dark feminine? They're the ones that are a little less able to be pointed out, and we don't know what the light is until we know what the dark is. And in a sense, in our communities, and this has nothing to do with the sexes either. There's feminine men, there's masculine women, right? So this is why we need to talk about these differences. So then we can be palatable, and we can help bring the genders. I really believe this is one of the main things that can fractal up and change the world, is when our communities can come together in the divine masculine with the divine feminine, you know,
together.
That's right. Together, and know when when we need to act as the divine feminine, when we have to act as the divine masculine. That is a relationship of the Trinity, because that's even if you have a child or anyone that's fractals out to, you're instantly involved with that logos between that, deciding between that thing, and in your mind you have that. It's like your third eye, right? It's the thing that brings together your left brain, which is your masculine brain, with your right brain, which is your feminine brain. And so that's what to me is like a way of fractal the family trinity into your mind, and understanding that if you can balance that in your own mind, then you fractal out to your partner, and then that child will fractal up to be as we pass that culture on for generations, we're going to have a world full of Christs. Like, they all fail. They're all going to do all the crazy things that we all did to get there. But what I'm saying is that we're creating soil for this. To me, what the Revelations is, what that new earth that's going to be given to us, and we're creating that soil.
So there's one thing So I like to focus on the how. So how can you spot in society that an oppression is happening? So let's look in Nazi Germany. Imagine if you wanted to speak in favor of Jews in any way. Oh, they should be treated better. So you wouldn't be able, in society wouldn't accept you in that spot. Imagine if you were in 1900, 1899, and you spoke in favor of the First Nations people. And in certain places, or imagine in 1799, you spoke in favor in the United States in the South for African Americans, and so you wouldn't be able to. Society wouldn't accept you in that. So where is it right now where you're not allowed to talk? That's an idea. That's a way to see how that area is being oppressed, and we have in the delusion is a lot around. Women, how they have it harsh, but that's totally accepted. We can talk. But to say that men have it hard, and to say that it's actually an oppression around men, is like an outlawed thinking. Just like the beeping starts happening right
now. Cameras, our other camera just ran out of battery. So
so that, and there's many different ways that I'll get into on a different. But I can line up a couple ideas where you can see that this is. Put it this way, there's women tend to need food, water, shelter. They're smaller beings, just literally physically smaller. And the biggest threat to women is attacks from men. So once you see that fear, then they're viewing the world out those eyes. Now, men, our fears, we're actually more likely to be attacked by men than women are. I've been attacked and punched in the face and beaten so many times. Like it would be, if it wouldn't happen to a woman, or it would be completely tragic if it did. And yet there's been no, I'm not interested in any, getting people for it or trying to punish them. I just want to learn, how do I move forward? How can I stay safe? And how do I move, in a positive light? And I know that I need support and love and encouragement, because this is a weakness that men have. The worst thing you can do for a man is criticize him emotionally and with words. Tell him he's not good enough. Tell him he's bad. Tell him he's weak. Tell him he's, whatever, he's not doing good enough. And that's exactly what's happening on Facebook and in our society in many ways. It's just a full-on assault on the hearts and the sensitivities of men. Men are strong physically, and everyone's different on a different part of the spectrum. But men's greatest thing is the ability to chop wood, build houses, move things, objects. This is what we're good at. And women are strong emotionally. And what's happening is a complete onslaught of emotional attacks towards men. It's in women's strength is emotional, and it's in the negative. So what we can do, what we need women to do, and what we need us all to do, is support the good you see. And then you have mercy in the correction. Keep myself safe. That's not safe for me, so I keep myself safe. If you need to, then that's when you speak up and bring that. But if you can be strong enough to retract back, keep yourself safe, and then see the good you see. That's how you get men to change for the best. Wow, I love how you provide this. Look at how strong you are. Look at how good you're doing. Give him compliments. Find his doing good and comment on that. That's what men need more than anything.
Encouragement.
Encouragement, and refrain from the "you're never good," especially the conversation and the words that say, you're always whatever, you're always bad, you're never good. And the worst thing that a woman could do and a man could receive probably is literally just a whisper. Every morning his wife wakes up beside him and she whispers, "You're good for nothing." And that's it. Because you'll never accomplish nothing. Every day, just one little word. And then she can have a great attitude the rest of the day. "Hey, is there anything going on?" She just wake up and whisper that. And that's literally, so what if we do the opposite? "Hey, you're so strong." And you'll see a man just flourish. And it's up to a woman to have the discernment. That's how you are the judges, the discernment. Who has sex with you, who reproduces with you, who has children. That's what women get to decide that. And it's imperative that you choose good men in their good actions, and you focus on what is a good man, what is a good action, what do you want, what is safety for you, and then you see who you are. I need safety, protection, whatever, and then you just seek and find it. Seek and ye shall find. Ask and you shall receive. And look for that. Find a man and look for the good in that. And when we start doing that, and the women that choose to do that, and even if it's only 1 in 100 who actually take this advice, 1 in 1,000, you will find it. Congratulations, good job. You won't even need my congratulations, because you'll get your dreams fulfilled and you'll be so happy. And for the other, whatever, 90% maybe that can't hear it or won't and don't want to hear it, there's not, until you choose to see this truth. This is the truth. And there's many other things. I can back it up for literally hours. So I won't go any deeper in that, and just keep it simple. The noticing the good you see and in complimenting the good. Being the good, seeing the good, encouraging the good, walking with the good, and the part is keeping yourself safe, and in that process. Well, how do I act safe? And there was actually can I say something else around that? And so with discernment, I was saying, when you realize that, if I ask a question, is every place on earth equally safe? I'll ask you. We'll walk through this. Is every place on earth equally safe, or is some places safer than others?
Yeah.
Is it safer to be in Kaslo? Probably. Or is it or how about in the middle of a war zone? Is there one place safer than others?
Probably a safer place.
So some places are safer. Okay. So is there a time of day that might be safer? Do you think 3 a.m. in a crazy part of Detroit, or 3 a.m. in Kaslo, or sorry, 3 in the middle of the afternoon in Kaslo, and 3 a.m. in Detroit? Is one of these safer? Mm-hmm. Yes. So is there a way that we can dress that would be safer? So what if I'm dressed like an army dispatch, and I have like ammo, or we're not like militant gear with fast running track shoes, so I can run and perfect, and I'm in Kaslo in the middle of the day? Now, would that be safer as wearing, like inappropriate clothing in Detroit at 3 a.m? So when we start to see this, we see that there's a spectrum, that there's ways that I can discern and I can create more safety, and not look at the world as if every place is the same safety. Every place and we can start seeing the truth that there are ways to keep yourself safe in the way you dress, in the way you act, in the way you stand, and that some places. So one more that I'll add is just, so if you're wasted drunk, you're just drunk and you're out of control at 3 a.m. in downtown Detroit and dressed in inappropriate clothing, just like not safe clothing. And if you're in Kaslo at 12 noon wearing track shoes, whatever, and you're around friends and you're sober, is one of these safer than the other? And when we start looking at the world like that, and then it's possible to keep myself safe by my actions and by using positive words and focused on good, that I can have the discernment and I can make safety for myself with my own actions and have discernment. And I can in turn make myself, and it's not about their responsibility and they should make it safe. And it's like, no, I can do certain things. There's certain things I can do. And when we just be self-accountable and I look like that, then there'll be massive... Well, I'll just get safer and safer. I'll get more and more productive. I'll have a bigger smile. I'll be more...
People don't
my
really
life will get better.
People don't really understand, too, and I think that, like, they don't understand, like, how mathematics work and how you can, like, look at how safe a situation is. There's, like, an actual logical way of doing so.
Yeah.
And like, when I think about these things and, like, what just happened with the world and how people were... I won't say the word because we can't say it, but they were fed a perception of what they thought their safety was.
Yeah.
As if they were in the midst of a war zone. When there was a lot of us with the eyes to see and the ears to hear to try to be like, you guys, like, chill out. Everything, like, God's got you. Right? Like, God's got you. Like, it's this perception of that you're unsafe.
Yeah.
No. When that fear that starts chasing you running is now making you unsafe. Because you need to be still and be with God and trust in God. There's people in the midst of those storms that are staying with God. There's people in the Auschwitz camps that were, like, in peace.
Yeah.
So, like...
And they lived.
That's right. And so that when we're in fear and we have this perceived fear, like that men are dangerous, for example, because that's where we're at, right, in a sense. And I want to say right off the bat, you'll notice with me, I have a bias. I've had conversations with very feminine men that are like, I've never noticed this push against the masculine. And I was like, well, I didn't think that's because you're a very feminine person. So you get a different, people walk different paths.
Yes.
And so I am biased. Okay. I'm biased on the man side. I've been pathologized for my masculinity my entire life.
Because you have been in stuff and you
that's
grew
right.
up in
So
Alberta.
That's right. But I want to, like, ask for your patience for you can definitely see that I'm in the defense from a side. Like, I'm on a side, like, defending quite a lot. And I am actually defending it for the women though too. Because this trust, yes, men have been the most dangerous thing for everything. There's reasons why my dog doesn't trust men but trusts women. That's all evolutionary. That's from actual fear that's in our genes. So, but we have to get above that and realize that that was in different times, and the evil are a small fraction of the men. You know, you can say, yes, the darkest of people, 99.9% of them are men. Yes. But they're, like, seriously 0.0001% of what men are actually are.
And the very most loving people who are willing to stand
That's
up
right.
and walk into the flames and make things better are also men.
That's right.
And it's so the spectrum between, it's actually the similarities in people is mostly in women. Women are mostly more similar in the amount of money they have and the amount of security and it's, when it gets off into the horrible spectrum, that is horrible, and we all know that, and it needs to stop. That's why I work for Children of the Street Society. And when it goes into men, though, the spectrum, the very worst men on earth are way different than the very best men on this end of the spectrum. The spectrum is so wide that a very good man does not act anything the same as a very it's very so to put all men in one category is actually incorrect.
And what I was getting at too there is that when a man with hope, because what people don't realize is they are aiming at things. There's intuitive things that are not being fulfilled by this current world. And when a woman can put that trust in a man, that will bring out the God in the man. And be in trust.
The good out of
but what I say about, like, the trust thing is yes, there's things you should be discerning on like what river you jump into, because you might drown trying to help some men. Because there is that, and so you can probably, if they're drinking a lot and doing lots of drugs, and you're not in the profession to help That's not your jobs. And that's a lot of women go out and they want to save the world because that's their nature. That's why little kids, they always are like the dress up as the nurse as children. This is intuitive and they want to save the man, and then they get drowned in the process. So you do have to discern what men are capable of being a divine masculine. But you are a part of that equation for a lot. Like that whole
you get to choose
is what makes a man like realize is like to fractal out to the future and have a child. The difference, I asked men this and they're like, well, I was with this one person and I did want to have kids, and I was like, so now you don't want to because they didn't have the other chemical involved that would trust them to make a child. And that's what it is a man wants to fractal into the future. They want to believe in life. They want to believe in something beyond that, which is believing in God. And that woman coming together with the man and trusting the man to be that will helps him. That hope will create that. All these men that are hiding away right now in the basements playing Nintendo because they're playing shoot 'em up games and all this stuff that's masculine. They like that stuff, and it's not necessarily bad. The fact that they hide away is bad, but that's because they have a world that doesn't accept them. But you know what? If they are all those men that are sitting there being hated and hiding away because they weren't accepted in the world they'll be at the front lines when shit really happens. Even doesn't matter. They can't wait to be useful. The world's
peaceful right now. That's why men are in the like the Kootenays where we are, and kind of, it's so peaceful. You can wear any type of clothing at any time and in any state, whether you're drunk or sober, and you can do basically any behavior, and you're probably safe. Like, and some would say, well, there's a chance that you wouldn't be. Yeah, there's a chance. And lightning can strike when you're like, but you're mostly safe. Throughout human history, people used to get decapitated and killed and everything. Like, the world is so safe right now, and that's why. And men know that logically when they look out. But when shit actually hits the fan, then you're gonna want a man who can. You're not gonna want a man who's just like fat and lazy. You're gonna want a man who can tear through some shit
and has God on his hands,
and has God in his hands, and it can lead you to safety and work with you. Because it's not all one-dimensional. It's a woman will know energetically because they think through feelings. She'll know what's going on in the room and whether she trusts and stuff. She can feel it. Women are very feeling like that. Whereas a man will know, go here, stand here. Like for me, and probably you too, I've had so much violence that I'm like really good at understanding violence. Like I know if something violent, I know, okay, let's stand here.
You know how dangerous that is.
I also know where to stand.
Yeah, exactly.
And stand here, don't stand there. That's this guy, and I can see it on that guy's face. Okay, that guy's like, and it's not a matter of, oh, he shouldn't do that.
That's PTSD though.
Yeah. Well, I had lots of PTSD.
Well, the funny thing is that we were going to talk about this and I think we went on different and I like that we were going to kind of talk about maybe we can talk about this next time, but the mental health, the Western mental health, like witch hunt and all of these things that pathologize actual parts of the divine masculine, for example, like to know that there's threats out there.
There is
threats out there. Safe. Like a man that is always watching it's disorderly if it's ruining your life, of course.
Yes.
But to pathologize like a warrior instinct, and instead of like sharpen it and see that it actually is useful, because you don't want a dull axe when it's time to chop the tree down. And so this is where like there's
the difference between a good man and a bad man, a man that's seeking power and a man that is powerful. And it's two different men, and to have the eyes to see the difference.
And I think that with the mental health, they come at it as a pathology. They don't come at it trying to find the truth, because a lot of people are in a spiritual crisis. And all they need is somebody to accept that there's some truth that is there. And instead of saying, no, beat that out of them, drug it out of them, this is delusions. And those that have had true experiences with the spirit realm, this is some esoteric knowledge for those that there is stuff that is unexplainable. And when you try to receive from between these places, it's hard to decipher and know you're transmitting the right message. And that's where like a lot of people that seem they can be brought out of their bipolar disorder and become powerful instead of drugged out of it. And that's like helping them burn off the demons, because it is a connection to spirit realm, which means there's demons in there and there's God in there, but they're both there often. And if you can help them understand what's there instead of telling them it's all delusion, there's nothing to fish through. That's a big problem with our mental health issue, and that's where we have to. I don't like secular psychology and secular stuff like this. It has to be body, mind, spirit, all is one. And that's a vision that we're going to be building this vision, like actually, and I can see it. That's right, and this is what this is about right now. But we're going to actually bring, because doctors know now what evil they're a part of, the ones that are awakening, and they want something different. They know they have to connect all three of these for it to work properly. One of these, a lot of people, they're all like it's plus physical. Here's pills, blah blah blah. Just there's something not even connected to physical that's going to fix it. And that's where these are the higher places that we need to bring this. And these are the new world that we're building, and because we're leaving the Hopi prophecy, which is very close to the book of Revelations, says there's a path to destruction. There's a path to eternal life, in a sense. Mm-hmm. And so that we're on the path and we're building that. And so,
what I wanted to say is just like that little, because just to be clear, the very, most broken people in our society, we allow them to be, but it is men. Like most homeless people are men. Most people in prison are men. You could probably say homeless and in prison is probably the two worst places to be in the Western society. If you're either in prison or you're homeless, you have the least amount of resources and the least amount of freedom and the least amount of, probably most starvation, and probably the least lifespan, like that you're going to die. And most of those people are men. And there's going to be massive amounts of death and suicides in men coming in the coming years. And a lot of them will be homeless men and men who are imprisoned until we do something about this. And as long as the ideas and the focus is on how it feels uncomfortable, because women are getting told to do everything, and it's just so stressful for women to be in the workplace because it's not safe, and it's that the stress that women tend to carry is about 2 or 3 times the amount that men carry. Men function off 20 to 30 times more testosterone, which means that we get testosterone from solving problems, and women function off oxytocin, and you get oxytocin by serving and being of service and love, essentially loving and nurturing. Nurturing. And in the world out there, you get a lot of the jobs are about solving a problem. Build a fence, get money, solve a problem. So it causes a lot of stress in women, and it's very dangerous.
Provided safety, though, in a sense.
Well, then when they go home, they actually doubles or triples again their amount of stress. So women are so stressed out, and the new midlife crisis will be women. The women who choose their salvation comes from birthing children, and the women who do not birth children and who work and are told to do a career instead, and who do this stressful thing. There's going to be so much depression, but women will get through it through the system, and they'll be brainwashed and medicated through the system and kept alive for the most part. Whereas during this exact time, while they're pulling women through that whole process, then there'll be men dying, suicide, death on the street, prison. Like, this is what's happening. And when it's all said and done, there will be 7 women for every 1 man, and that is in the Bible. And that's where we're going. That's where we're heading. And until then, people probably won't wake up. So hopefully some of you even, and I was talking to my girlfriend about this, and she was saying, well, very few. She said something like, few people might be able to hear this, or something like, when you talk around these kind of things. And I said, I'm not talking for everyone. I'm just talking for that one person out there, right, who can hear this and make a difference in their lives, so they can choose to be responsible and accountable for themselves. It's not so they can make new Facebook profiles so they look like they're responsible and accountable, so they look cool. So there's this image about cool. And it's so that you can actually see this is how reality works. That as a woman, you have the power and control of who gives birth, who recreates by having sex with that person, and by and by trusting in a man and finding a good man. That's how you find safety. And it's not, and by doing that process, you can be empowered.
But it was an off, like with that safety thing, is that when a lot of times why women like needed to take the masculine role, which
yes,
put them in that position, was because first of all, they've been killing the masculine off. So what that does is, first of all, you don't have strong men, or the strong men that are left are the dark ones that are resentful at the fact that the world doesn't accept them,
because the world is so that dark men are able to survive in the crazy world.
Yeah, and so that's so they're to be honest, those dark men go into independence, and that's what you can have dark independence, which creates these sociopathic businessmen, and we're all judged upon these situations, when actually our society kind of is what creates people to have such a divide that doesn't connect to their feelings, and to be able to have a properly structured world where we balance. And I think what's that safety that women thought they had by running everything, it turned out not to be that safety for their long run, because they're like you said, the midlife crisis, they come 37, 40 years old, and they go, wow, I don't give a shit about this career that they told me that's my safety. Don't rely on men. They're all the dangerous and this and that. And so you got to rely on yourself. And then you're like 35, 40. I just want a man so I can have a child. Like a mother, and have a family,
and have a safe house.
So the rest of my life has meaning,
and
besides my ego and my ability to take care of myself and my huge career and all of this narcissism.
It's so filled with lies.
It's like, and it's to be honest, they've been fed this story, and I like, they're the victims of this. The men are too, because look at all the lost men in the world that can't, you know what I mean? It's
women are more victims of the deception.
Yeah.
And men can be more victims of actual violence.
And just the world is like you said, the other day we went with the 7-day Adventists down, and they're awesome. Like, you bring down 2 pots of soup to give to the homeless people, and I went down just to like chat with people, and a guy I met on the streets back in May or something like that, he's a really friendly guy. I gave him a crystal, and he gave me a necklace right off his, just like a really friendly guy, but he's really like masculine guy. He tells me about all his violence in the past that he's been through, and he's put in jail for protecting people.
Is this Chris?
No, it doesn't. And I don't want to. Anyways, but he's actually a really, I can sense that but he's scary. Like, and so he's living now on the streets. He just like it was his first day. He was like on the streets, and he ran into me, and we started talking, and we started talking about God. He's like, God, blah blah. And he said a bunch of like stuff that was angry and came from his resentment, and then he started talking about the evil around, and then I said, well, this is what Christians and people that are talk about, is like those that are possessed by the demons do what you're saying. And then there's people here feeding on the streets.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I drove away, and he said to me, he's like, anyone, I can set up my tent in their yard. I don't want to be any of these crackheads. Like, it's like, he was just like, I'm not into all this stuff, and I can't. And I was like, I drove down, and it hit me in the head, and like, just that 5 minutes earlier, someone on the streets is like, oh, I've bring people out from the streets before, and then they robbed me. So, and like, that came out just before this guy showed up. And that story that this other guy was talking about, like, puts that fear in that you. So I went down, and I was doing my shopping, and that guy was on my mind, and I was like, God's telling me to go find this guy. And I went back and asked if he wanted to stay at my house. And he stayed at my house one night, and he started talking about like spirituality and like the stuff he was like downplaying, he was like opening up to, and he's like, and he told me, he's like, thank you so much. He stayed one night because it's out here a ways, but he's like, I just needed a place to just have a good sleep. I was like really, and that's all people he need, like, and he's the last person that people are gonna help, because he's a 6.5 foot tall, 230 pound guy that's been through it. You can see he's like, and he looks scary, but I could see he's just a big protector. And he actually went to jail for 18 months for protecting somebody, you know. And this is what happens to they kill off the warriors, and they first of all they make them bad so they don't have anybody to follow, and that's why we have to try to help guide men back to the divine Father. You know, it's like,
yeah, and it's not necessary. It's not the role of a woman, because you can. Like I'm much better at dealing with a 6 foot 200 pound man than a lot of women were, because first of all, they don't look at me sexually that way and all that, and if they did, then they'd have another thing coming, because I'm not, because I had so much violence in my past and stuff, and we're just not built the same. Like I'm built for combat. I'm a hockey player and stuff like that. I used to get in fights with big dudes and stuff, and I don't like it, but I know how. And a lot of this is, there could be with more videos. This is kind of good. It's more on the controversy side, so it'll kick up some dust. And I say that's good because we need to, because if things come up as people watch this and you don't really understand, then ask questions and we'll talk, because there's more wisdom that's in, and knowledge and through experience. And you can see why Patrick as an individual, me as an individual, why I say the things I say. And there's more of a story. If you dig deep and you go and you seek and ye shall find, and then you go, oh, and then you'll be able to probably spread light. Say if you're a woman out there and you're watching this, then you'll be able to spread light too. And you'll be able to say, oh, well, this is how I view it. And it's based on maybe your skills. Your fears are so much different than my fears. And chances are, maybe we have some of them that are the same. And your skills are so much different than my skills. Again, maybe we have some skills that are the same, but once we factor in the fact that you view the world differently because you're, a 5 foot tall, 90 pound female, I literally don't view the world out that eyes. I don't think like that, and my skills are not the same as yours. And because of that, we view things different. We have different skills. I have different vulnerabilities. So the outcome in the world and what we see is so much different. And what you'll see is at the end of the day, one thing we do have in common is peace. We want peace. We want truth to be spread. We want to be able to be secure and safe. And they might be held in different order. Different order, like maybe security is most important for you, whereas peace is most important for me. And maybe in just how the order gets played out and how we act in our lives could be different, but at the end of the day we both want the same thing, which is a place on earth where people are honest and peaceful and it's safe. And I want a complete abundance. I want to get whatever I want. I want fresh water and fresh food, and I want good neighbors, and I want to, and just, chances are that's exactly the same.
And we can start to trust each other and start to live more communally. And when we start to trust the men and the women and all of that in general, then we'll be able to live communally, because that's what a house cannot stand it if it's divided, right? And so
we have to talk about these things and have the.
And so I think about when we can discuss and we can become palatable to this energy that we have, can be palatable more to the feminine, then the feminine can let up their guards and live in their feminine. You know what I mean? Like a lot of it's hard if you don't have a protector. When I adopted Ruby, she's my little pit bull mix. She was so scared of people and had all these traumas and just frightened. But then Gandhi's this big man that's rah everyone, and he licks everybody. She hides behind him. She feels safe having him there. He's like that. He's full on. He's a dude, you know what I mean? But he's there to protect everybody. And maybe it is guilty until innocent with him. However, that provides Ruby, who's had this trauma on her, to be able to live in peace, because she knows that she has the divine masculine taking care of her. And that's That's where I think why we and the man can stand and be that because he knows he's appreciated for, and he has that family and community to protect that appreciates him for that. And that's what fuels us, right? And so that's what we're pushing for. This is unity time. Like we gotta, and any, like you said too, is like if we've said some things and we went past them pretty quick and they might have rubbed you, you want to understand why we hold an idea like that, please like anything that you passed by that maybe rubbed you wrong that we didn't explain. There's reasons we think this way, and maybe there's reasons that we don't understand why we need to think about it a little further. So please comment down below and get involved and anything else you'd like to.
No. Yeah, I think that it's just recognizing that even me when I was drunk, and I used to get drunk all the time, and me now being sober is not the same person. So if you're looking at that, indication, looking at the little signs and whether or not you can trust this person and stuff like that, and looking at their behaviors and looking at whether or not they are repenting, meaning that they're looking for better, have they moved on from that and who they are now and today. So if you're looking at a person, whether or not they're safe and they're drinking alcohol, it's not a good sign. It's not that's not where you find safety. And then it goes beyond just alcohol. There's a whole, but it's that more good, less bad. So just wanted to say that with having the discernment that every place isn't the same, every piece of clothing doesn't keep you as safe, every behavior isn't the same, and as you have a spectrum. A person that's drunk in downtown Detroit at 3 a.m. is more in danger than a person who's sober in Kaslo at noon. And that's obvious. And once we start to see this obvious real, then we start to go, and then I can be accountable, and you can be accountable for, if you stand here, it's going to be more dangerous. And if you want safety, then stand where it's safer.
Or even for virtue's reason, like I don't know if I'm like virtuous with my sexuality to go and sit amongst a bunch of attractive women, and in situations that contest my virtue. I can be virtuous enough to stay out of those situations.
Well, especially put a beer in your hand.
That's right, exactly. So we have to know that we aren't especially around sex, like Solomon and he like had 700 wives and 300 concubines and never figured out the woman, right? And so he had all that issues, and all these godly people in the Bible like Samson and stuff were tricked by their sexual attraction to these women. So we have to know that where was I getting here?
That we are susceptible to being tricked.
Yeah, well, we are susceptible, so that's why we have to stay away from certain situations.
Yes.
I can tell myself a story, I'm just going to hang out with this girl and we're just going to do this. It's all good and dandy, but then you've put yourself in a situation where you can't be virtuous. And I'm speaking for myself here, right? Because I know that I have an animal, and this is how I keep it on a chain. I keep it, and to be honest, I will one day my virtue will be tested, and because I'm training and keeping this in my mind, I want to be sure that I'm going to succeed in my trial. However, in the meantime, stay the heck away from those situations. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, if you pick the place you want to die on too, like if you're a hero's journey man and person, stay the hell away from dark alleyway, like drunken places where that's like, let the dead bury the dead. Like if you have that hero's journey to save the world, go put yourself in the positions where
people are trying to be saved. That's
exactly.
People are like, please, I want to be saved. I'm looking for an answer.
Yeah.
That's a person you can help. Hopefully, maybe. Yeah. But if it's someone who's just like, I'm just going to get drunk and avoid my problems, probably not where to look for to help.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we should do another one here. We're trying to do them every week here, and if you'd like to subscribe and like, and also we're working at kind of funding ourselves to go around and be more of preachers in a sense, without a church, and speak the truth. And we'd like to make this something that we can fund our lives for one day. It might take us 10 years. But the whole point of this is we want to end up sculpting ourselves into something that we can provide to the world. And with all your comments and all your critiques, constructive critiques that you put down below, that's you guys investing in us becoming that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Much love and God bless.